Welcome back to the Simply His Coffee Shop. What crosses your mind when you hear the word perfect? Do you immediately feel shame because you aren't perfect? Do you think of someone in your life that seems to have the perfect everything? Is being perfect even a reasonable quest? That is our topic for today because so many of us, especially women, we struggle, I think, a lot with that and the perception of being perfect. And we have to be the perfect woman. We have to be the perfect shape. We have to be the
Right.
perfect mother.
Right.
All of the things perfect.
Yeah.
But is that even feasible, or is that
Attainable.
even exactly attainable?
Yeah, no. When we were roundtabling for today on the topic of, the paralyzing, perspective of perfection. And especially, when I was growing up, it was a little different. It was what people said, not a social media post. Right now, I
Yes.
can't imagine me being a teenager and having social media,
Yep.
because there's all these external pressures.
Yep.
From my perspective, I was an only child and my parents were divorced, so I've got different expectations of
Yep.
what I'm supposed to be here, what I'm supposed to be there. And all I had was like Teen Beat magazine or something, or Cosmo telling me what to feel or be. Or so now with social media, there's so many things that I think about, like, man, her home is gorgeous. How is that so clean?
Yeah.
I know how much she works. I mean, that her kids are so good. Look at this post. They're so beautiful. Their hair is perfect. Their clothes are perfect. They're on the perfect vacation.
Yep.
Those kinds of things. So that can be super paralyzing, to be the perfect Christian.
Yep.
Worrying about what are people going to think of me if I have this opinion, or if I listen to this music, or I liked somebody's post on Facebook. Oh, what
Why'd
does
you
that
like
mean?
that?
Right, exactly. I also think about, I really like to cook. I hate cleaning up, but I like to cook. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I'm not Martha Stewart at all, but I love experimenting with stuff. But then it's like, if I've got people over, okay, it's got to be perfect. I want the plate and the napkins. And Toby's always like, if I do an event, he's like, nobody's going to notice the stupid napkins. Leave them alone. I'm like, no, but you don't understand. And they've got to be the,
Right.
the thing. And I think, we really tend, I'm speaking for myself, to work overtime trying to hide imperfections and flaws, our failures, our shortcomings. But for me, when I say that out loud, then I think of, people that are in my purview that I'm like, I need to be authentic for them.
Yes.
They need to be able to be safe with not being perfect.
Right.
And why am I trying to expect them to be perfect? I can't be perfect. There was only one that was, and they killed him.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
Thankfully, he came back.
Right.
So I thought about, why do we strive to want to attain perfectionism? Why do we do that?
That's a great question because I know we all definitely struggle with that, especially as women. We're
Yeah.
like, we are always, but why do we do that? That's
Well-
such a weird thing that we would want to be perfect when there's no way for any of us to be perfect.
There's not, but here's the psychology of it. It speaks to the desperation of wanting to be accepted, wanting to fit in, wanting
Yeah.
to be loved, wanting, that kind of, look at me, let's, let's connect here, let's connect. And the thing too is it can be such a measure of our self-worth,
Yes.
which is, your self-talk.
Yes.
When you're looking in the mirror, oh my gosh, I can't believe my hair. I can't believe, oh, I've got a line, I've got these wrinkles, this, that, all of those things. So, we understand that God's love is so unconditional.
Right.
Yeah.
That we paint, the broad stroke of earthly approval. And for that love, a lot of times can be so conditional
Yeah.
in some relationships, you know what I mean? So that's one of the things that makes me think about why we do it.
You make me think, Cherise, sometimes we get these ideas from other people's suggestions and
Right.
their guidelines of what perfection is.
That's true.
Of course.
And I remember as a young minister's wife, my husband and I were just coming into the presbytery for our meeting.
Yeah.
And they're asking all kinds of these questions about your lifestyle and, do you keep your house clean and are your kids clean? And they were asking me pointed questions. Then they told me that if I did not keep my house clean and my kids, groomed at all times, that I could bring reproach upon my husband's ministry.
Oh, wow.
So, and of course, that is obviously can be interpreted that way to some people, but that put
Sure.
such a head trip on me, man.
Oh, my gosh.
There were,
Yeah.
you have no idea how many hours in the middle of the night I would be cleaning closets, and my kids were
Worried.
always clean. I mean, I was probably a better housekeeper, obviously I was, when I was a pastor's wife, because I was afraid that my failure would also cause my husband to fail.
Would reflect on
So
him.
those set of guidelines now, in my mind, have been a little bit more balanced out.
Yeah.
So my house is not perfect anymore, and I don't care that it's not, because I've learned that that the perfection can become so much more important than what
Right.
other things can be, like people.
Right.
And so,
Take that place.
yeah, and so also that put there were people in the church also, and I'm going to toss this over to Joe, because as a pastor's kid,
Yes.
I'm not so much sure about missionary kid in the island,
Yeah.
but as a pastor's kid in the United States, we had certain, and I'm going to just say mostly deacons with their big nose,
Sure.
pointing my kids out while other kids were wreaking havoc, but it was my kids they would call on the carpet.
Right.
Because I was the pastor and wife,
Right.
and there was the pastor's kid. So, Joe, I'm going to toss this and let you talk about perfection for a
Well,
sec.
first of all, I remember at the age of 9, my theology was solid. Solid biblical theology. And I had the utmost concern about how my mom's home appeared to people that would
course you
frequent.
did.
It's the highest priority.
About like Tommy does.
That's why I never played in the dirt or threw water balloons inside the house or
Wow.
let our 169-pound Great Dane in through the back door when he was supposed to be an outdoor dog. I didn't do these things
Well, even
Well,
our
good for
dog was perfect.
you.
because I was so committed to my theology. Okay, scratch that, reverse it. I was very much committed to that. My mom actually had additional challenge layers in keeping up all of these
Right.
appearances and optics for the
Yeah.
people at the church by doing, in contrast to what normal little boys do, by absolutely playing in the dirt. And good luck
Yep.
keeping me groomed as a little boy, right? She used to mandate that I would take these baths at the end of play day, and you would just, the clean water would look like dark coffee at the end of this.
wow.
Me and my buddy
Oh, my God.
BC Gallagher would be out at the fence. I've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Throwing what we called burrito bombs. We'd take white
Oh, my
print paper
Great
out of my dad's office, which he was really okay with. Take all the paper you need out of my study, and I would fill it with dirt, fold it up like a burrito, and then we would throw it up in the air so when it landed, it would go poof.
Right.
Right?
Oh, my
So there'd be like little rocks and stuff at the bottom of the tub. Anyway, no, I'm sure we made your life a lot more difficult. So I will tell you, and if you ever find yourself in the need for the long version, I did write about some of this in my book, Everyday
Yeah, Everyday
Champions, which
Champions.
is
Yeah, you
actually
did.
all about mentorship and
Yeah.
finding God's call for your life and so forth. But I did describe some of what she's describing
Yeah.
in the book, where because I was the pastor's kid,
Right.
as if that magically and
Yeah.
miraculously changes my genetic
title, for sure.
predisposition, or the fact that doctors were wanting to diagnose me with ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
OCD, and of course, to my mom's credit, she would never accept those diagnoses. She also declined the medications. And
Which saved your
believed
life.
in me
Right.
that between him and the Lord, they're going to sort this thing out someday. So I, as an adult, have been the recipient of so many beneficial layers not to have put my body through all of that accumulative
Right.
medications and stuff.
Yeah.
And I still have ADHD, or whatever the doctors would describe
Right.
as ADHD, but now I've tried really hard to work that into positives for the ministry, the
For sure.
details that I
The
catch, maybe
details.
from
Yeah.
a producer's eye or whatever.
Yes.
But no, that expectation from deacons,
Yeah.
you're the pastor's kid.
Yeah.
You're the boss, right? That was supposed to be my response to that, right? This idea that because I'm the pastor's kid, I'm supposed to set the example for the other kids.
Right.
And I will tell you, as a young, hyper, super obnoxious kid who defied all of the reasons for that, in terms of my home, I really did have parents that were committed not to even fussing
Yeah.
in front of us
Right,
kids.
right.
If they had to talk through something, they would do it in the other room. They didn't want us kids being in the presence of any picture of marriage that wasn't just cooperation,
Right.
Yeah.
partnership.
Teamwork, right.
Right, right. So my father was so good to my mom. She was so good to my dad. I didn't have to deal with some of the abuses that some kids deal with
Yeah.
in their homes. And yet my behavior looked very much like that wasn't the case.
Right.
There were teachers at times that thought,
What's
is
going
this
on in
kid
the
being
home?
abused? What's going on
Right.
at home? This
Yeah.
kid's got
Right.
energy over the sky. He's
Yeah.
obnoxious. When I was in the second grade one year, remember these giant medieval clocks that they'd have on the front of the classroom above the chalkboard?
Black and white.
These things
Yep.
like 40 pounds.
Yeah.
And they're metal.
Yeah.
And then to add insult to injury, they have the metal grill in front so that projectiles can't hit them. Well,
Right.
in any case, I was so furious in the second grade that my teacher had told me to sit down. I was just ruined over that. I wasn't going to do it. I'd had it. You can't tell me to sit down. Don't you know
Right.
who I am? I took my chair and I threw it. I'm in the third row back. I threw it as hard as I could. It went over 2 rows of students, hit the chalkboard, and this giant medieval clock lands and shatters all over the schoolroom floor right in front of the chalkboard. So it's off to the principal's office. Okay. So why am I telling you all of this? I had these bombastic outbursts like this, but you could not rationalize it by anything that was happening at the home.
Yeah.
My dad was very balanced in his approach to discipline. There were never abuses and things. But when I had deacons pull this gambit with me that
Right.
I'm supposed to set the example and be perfect because I'm in proxy to
And
2
that's
really
manipulation.
benevolent pastor figures,
Yeah.
it was the worst thing they could have done.
Right.
Yeah.
And I wrote about this in Everyday Champions. My behavior would be 50 times worse than the one that I had offered that had landed me in trouble in the first place. And here's why. Because when an adult, I couldn't have explained this or articulated this as a child, but here's basically what it amounted to. I already had issues with outrage and things like this. When an adult, an authority figure that I did not respect at all,
Yeah.
Right.
basically branded me
Ooh.
as the renegade, the outcast,
Right.
the troubled child,
Yeah.
Right.
and they didn't give me any sense at all that they believed that I could be better than that.
Ooh.
It just galvanized how in your face I was going to be, right? But the people in my life, like my 5th grade school teacher, Miss Barbara Phillips, when my Royal Ranger commander, Dave Horde, and so many others. There's Bob Backstrom in the 7th grade, my principal. There were these different moments in my life where people would affirm me regardless.
Yeah.
Hey, I understand you're Dave Horde, what a precious man. He was my Royal Ranger commander. He would see me do something where I'm going to challenge the line, and he would turn it like this. Now, Joe, I know you got spirit. You've got a lot of good ideas. And I'll tell you what, let's explore some of those a little bit later, and we'll see if you've got it. What have you got to offer the class? We'll get to some of that later. Right now, I need you to be quiet. Can you do that? I know you can.
Wow.
I mean, you were just
Spinning the
oh my
whole
goodness,
script.
I don't even want to call it spin or manipulation.
No, but
But it's a redirect.
The craftiness,
Yeah, it is
the
redirect.
craftiness, and
Yeah.
his commitment to making sure that I felt affirmed,
Yeah.
Right.
and that what was being defined and frameworked as these disadvantages, the
Right.
kid needs
Yeah.
medication, he's
Right.
obnoxious, what's going on in the home. The fact that he made me believe, that Miss Barbara made me believe that I could be something better than that.
Yeah.
For those people, that was the projection now. That was the that was the role, as my oldest daughter would say, that was the character I would become
Yeah.
for those people, because now they made me feel like if I kept that going, that performance of being
Yeah.
obedient and attentive going, I'd keep getting those accolades.
Deposits.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Sign me
Yeah.
up for some more of that. So, anyway, point being, these people that were the deacons of the church that my mom's describing, that would try to define me in this negative light, they
Yeah.
only galvanized it and made it worse. And I honestly, the words, "You're the pastor's kid,"
Right.
the words, "You're supposed to set the example," made
Right.
my
Twitching.
metabolic function fall apart.
Right.
Right.
Like my brain would malfunction.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and I think we do that so often just in life.
Yeah.
You know, we set these such high goals for
Yes.
ourselves that they're not
Unattainable.
even realistic, you
Yeah.
know, and we do that to ourselves. people do that to us occasionally,
Right.
but I think the worst enemy is that we do that to ourselves.
Set ourselves up for failure.
Absolutely. Instead of thinking, okay, I can do this, or
can.
let's set the smaller goal until
Yeah.
then I can meet this other goal. Because as Joe can attest, I'm a horrible housekeeper. I'm horrible at it. I'm not. It's not my strong suit. But I try. And yes, the house gets overwhelming, and I have to really work hard at it. But it
Well,
doesn't.
you're not a stay-at-home wife either.
Well,
You're a
no.
more than full-time
Right.
career
Yeah, yeah,
person, and we
yeah.
have little kids.
Right.
It's the perfect recipe for disaster. So I don't know that it's a fair framework to say I'm a bad housekeeper. We don't really know
Well,
what kind of a housekeeper you are because we'd have to put you at
That's
the
an
house, and that
interesting
would. No, I'm
perspective.
serious.
No, for sure.
How
Good
do you
point.
come home at the end of a 6 p.m.
Yeah.
full 10-hour, and then you've got the kids, and they're all, oh, let me show you
Now
my
it's
homework.
dinner, now
and
it's homework,
Bing,
now
bing,
it's
bing, and they have
baths, now it's
sports and everything else.
laundry, now it's, yeah.
So I know that was a peripheral point, but don't say you're a bad housekeeper. Let's just agree that our house needs a lot of help. How about that?
okay.
Redirect.
Yeah. Hey, I'm.
You
I'm
learned.
I learned
You
something
learned.
from Dave Ward.
So I love
Catherine,
that.
you're a great housekeeper. Let's just say the house disagrees.
Oh, wow. That's funny.
But that actually makes my point for me, doesn't it? It's my perception of
Yes.
who I am
Right.
and my lack of perfectionism
Yes.
on the house
Right.
that then we can redirect that.
Yeah.
So how oftentimes does the Lord do that to us?
For sure.
You know, he says no. And we talked about this when we were talking about identity and who we are in Christ.
Yeah.
That goes along so well with this because God doesn't call us to be perfect.
No, that's right.
Right.
He doesn't. He doesn't say, oh, you have to be perfect. You have to
Exactly.
fill every square inch of this box before
Right.
then you can be a child of
For
mine.
sure.
Right.
For
He
sure.
does not do that.
No,
he
he
didn't
doesn't.
do that to the thief, and we talked about
Right.
that the other day too. Is that he didn't tell the thief, hey, now you have to climb down off that cross
Yeah.
and go do all these other things
get
before
people, right.
you
You know?
can then be saved.
Right,
no,
right, right.
he didn't even have a chance. He was on the cross dying
Yeah.
and he was saved. So that's something we have to remember, that God doesn't call us to be perfect.
No, for
And
sure.
what other people, and how many times has this happened where you see this friend on Facebook, their life is perfect. They post the perfect family pictures and accolades to their husband or accolades to
Oh,
their
right.
wife.
Well, and those posts never show you like their daily struggle,
Oh,
their
no.
frustration, their
Right.
stress, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
strife that could be happening. It's always perfect, perfect,
Yeah.
perfect.
Of course.
And we have a friend in common, Kelly, and she says life gets lifey, you know, and it really does. It gets really messy. And trying to be perfect, like we were talking about, it's exhausting
Yes.
and
Yep.
it's unsustainable.
Yes.
Man, and fear, it paralyzes us,
Yes.
you know, and
Yes.
that means like not fulfilling your calling or operating in what, you know, your gift is. You know, it just like seizes you up, and it's easier to just do nothing than to take one step
Yes.
forward,
Yep.
you know?
Yes, those are things that I believe are very detrimental, is when you become isolated in your own,
Yeah.
Oh,
like
wow.
you said.
Yeah.
Your perception of yourself can isolate you from.
Yeah.
And it's a very easy thing to do.
Sure.
But if there's people out there listening to this conversation, give yourself a break.
Oh, Grace.
Grace.
Because you know
Yourself,
what?
Grace.
Absolutely. And I liked what you said earlier about, it might have been during the in between, but you said that there was only one perfect person.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they killed him.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
And so I like that. I like
Yep.
what you said too about the perceptions that you have of yourself. That
Yeah.
really is kind of where it starts.
Absolutely.
So again, give yourself a break and don't set goals that are unattainable.
Oh,
And if
yeah.
other people are setting goals for you, go back and think, okay, wait a minute, but you're not living
it's
my
not
life.
my goal.
It's,
Yeah.
it's exactly what you guys are talking about. This is the life I live, and I'm sorry if you can make my house pretty clean and all that. Come on over,
Right.
but don't put me in your
In
guidelines.
your
Yeah.
bubble.
I
Right.
have to
absolutely.
answer for my own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if guidelines have been set for you by other people, reevaluate.
No, for sure. It's kind of like,
Reevaluate.
worry about your porch. I'll take care of my porch.
I like that one. It's my
You know?
favorite one.
For sure. We do have to take a really quick break. We'll be right back.
Introducing the Simply His Mystery Bundle, a must-have for coffee lovers and book lovers alike. Indulge in our selection of certified organic, herbicide and pesticide-free, great-tasting coffees. Whether it's Donna's Divine Cup of Theology, Nita's splendid Sunrise at the Ranch, Allie's amazing Tornado Watch, or Catherine's incredible Island Girl, each roast is bursting with its own unique flavor. And the best part? You get to pick your favorite blend. So which one will you choose? Our stunning gray and silver Simply His shirt is also included in this package. A stylish V-neck t-shirt with our Simply His logo printed on the front in captivating silver. Perfect for that warm weather that's just around the corner. Now, I did say this was a mystery package. That's because when you purchase a special offer from Skywatch TV store, you'll receive a free mystery book. You heard me right. A mystery book from one of Defender Publishing's huge selection of greatest hits and all-time bestsellers, sent to you at no extra cost. These outstanding works of literature are packed with inspiration and faith. But don't wait too long to order. This offer is only available while supplies last. Place your order to ensure that you don't miss out on this exciting opportunity. Put together, these items hold a retail value of over $90. Yours now for only $45 plus shipping and handling. Don't miss out on this great package. You can shop Simply His by scanning the QR code now by using your camera app, or call 844-750-4985 and tell them that you want the new Simply His Mystery Bundle. Now, let's get back to Simply His.
Welcome back. We are continuing our discussion on being perfect, and is that even attainable?
Right.
Which it's not attainable.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, and nobody can be perfect.
No.
And we were talking before the break even that God is not calling you to be perfect or to live a perfect life. We live on a fallen planet. Things are going to happen.
Sure.
You're going to have emotions that get away from you.
Uh-huh.
But grace,
Yeah.
God's grace is sufficient for
it.
us.
Absolutely.
That's exactly it. You know, that's one thing we were talking about is being paralyzed by that fear.
Yeah.
You know, and that I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, and doggone it, nobody likes me kind of thing. That's where the enemy really likes to come in and attack and destroy the plans that God has for you and the purpose that He has set for
Yeah.
you. You know, when you don't take that step of faith, the enemy's won. He's just won. You know, he's successfully fulfilled his plan in shutting the purpose down that God has for you in that moment, for that time, that
Yeah.
season.
Yeah, don't be Eeyore.
Oh, wow.
Don't wallow. If you fail, get back up and try again.
Right.
That's an important lesson to learn.
Well, and, you know, we talk about how Toby and I were youth pastors. Toby, I don't remember if you were Worship Guide 2.0 at that time or not. He brought in cinder blocks, and he starts building this wall and teaching, you know, the kids about the lesson that he was talking about. And when the lesson was done, the kids got up and looked on the back side of the wall, and each block had the word either failure or success. Failure or success.
Oh, wow.
Either way, the wall got built.
Right.
He was building on, you know, and he was
Yeah.
using your
that's
failures,
good.
and using your successes.
That's great.
And it still got built. So, you know, just keep striving, keep going, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. I think that is something that when you do finally get courage enough to try something, and
Right.
if you fail, then it shuts you down again.
Yeah.
So no, get back up and do it again.
And that's where as community, we can encourage one another, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, yes, that didn't
Yes.
work out so great, but let's do this.
right.
I'm here.
Well,
We
it's the
got
whole
this.
redirect.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the whole redirect part. You know, if you can redirect your thoughts or redirect your thinking
Yeah.
or even your heart, you have to do that so that then you can reach that next level and setting those small goals. Because again, if you're a goal-oriented person and you need to check the boxes, do things. We've even talked about this on like the whole New Year's resolution type
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
is don't make a New Year's resolution that you can't keep because we're like, oh, we're going to have a beach body ready to go by summer. Really? It doesn't,
Right.
it's not a magic pill,
No,
you know, it's
no.
not.
Especially after 3 kids. I mean, really.
Oh, right? Well, 4 for me,
Not
but
this
still.
body.
Exactly.
Is it really going to be ready? But start those small things and give yourself so much grace because that's what God wants for us is he doesn't want us to be perfect. We
Right.
can do the baby steps.
No, for
And
sure.
don't be feeding all those negatives. We always
No.
tend to kind of gravitate to the things that we
Yeah.
hear that are
Oh,
not
that's
good.
the deal. That's the deal.
And really, 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 I've had to do this myself over the last 3 or 4 years. I've had to stop and, like Joe said, redirect. I've had to do this to myself.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Don't think that thought. There's nothing in it but destruction.
Yeah.
Think, redirect that idea,
Yeah.
that thought. And that's where I went back to when we talked about the identity in Christ. I started thinking about, okay, but what's God's concept of me? And I mean, he died for me. That's where we start.
Right.
Yeah.
And it goes up from there.
Yeah.
And so it's really helped me a lot. So, yeah.
Speaking of, speaking stuff over you, we had a pastor once that said, in a dog fight, which dog's going to win? It's the one you feed.
Yeah.
So, and I think about that a lot
good.
about, speaking stuff over me. It's like, oh, stop that.
Yeah, actually, one of the ladies that's helped me watch Thomas and Becca, she used that analogy to a degree with them, when they're starting to fight or whatever. And she's like, which wolf are you feeding? Are you feeding the good wolf or the bad wolf? And then Thomas will come home and he'll be like, Mom, he was feeding the bad wolf. So he's proclaiming
getting
that,
it.
but
He's getting it.
that's a concept that
Yeah.
even children can understand.
Sure.
Which one are you feeding? Who are you feeding?
Yeah.
And that's so important. And
Yeah.
that's the mirror. You have to stand in the mirror.
Yeah.
Again, who does God say I am?
Yes.
What am I speaking into my life? Who am I feeding?
Right.
And we have to always feed that. And you're never going to be perfect.
No.
Just get that out of your head right now.
No, for sure.
The only
For sure.
perfect you're going to find is in Christ.
That's it.
Absolutely.
That's the only place you're going to find it.
Absolutely.
Well, we are all out of time again. Did you guys learn something today? Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week in the Simply His Coffee Shop.